It's no secret that in our current world, the internet has given us access to information like never before. With the click of a button, we can learn about the farthest corners of the universe, trace the history of ancient civilizations, or discover the latest breakthroughs in any scientific field. However, this unfiltered access to the world's knowledge library brings with it a ton of misinformation and low-quality data. Social media platforms, blogs, emails, podcasts, videos, and countless online sources provide us with more information than our brains can actively process. We're exposed to tons of different perspectives, opinions, and so-called facts, which can make it confusing and hard to decide which things to remember and which things to forget. But with all of this information, what can we do about the information that we actually want to absorb? What can we do to actively learn and remember the things that we find important? Well, today we're going to be talking about two different things that can help you learn and remember more things. So the first technique is the effort rule. Essentially, the effort rule is this idea that the more effort we put into recording a piece of information, the better chances we have of retaining it. In 2014, there was a study done by Princeton University where they split students into two separate groups. The first group was asked to take notes using the old and archaic method of using a pen and paper. The second group was asked to take notes using more modern things like laptops and tablets. They ran this study for the entire school semester. The purpose of this study was to see which method of note-taking was more effective and which one helped students retain more information. Here's what they found. The first thing that they discovered was that the second group, the laptop note-taking group, took down more notes, nearly twice as many as the pen and paper group, proving that it was the more efficient way to take notes. But interestingly, when they looked at the test scores between the two groups at the end of the semester, they found that the students who took notes using the pen and paper method scored almost twice as high as the laptop note takers. So what does this tell us? This tells us that our brain retains more information through doing things that require more effort, like taking notes on pen and paper versus on our phones or computers. This is because of something in our brains called neuroplasticity. Simply put, neuroplasticity happens when we engage in a thing that requires more effort, like practicing something or taking notes. When you do these things, specific neurons are activated. If you keep doing these things over and over, it tells your brain that this is important, which leads to more of an activation of each neuron. These help solidify these things in your brain. Think of your brain like a city with lots of roads. These are like the brain's connections or synapses. When you learn something new, it's like the city builds new roads or makes existing ones stronger so you can get to places quicker. This is what neuroplasticity does in your brain. It builds or strengthens the roads when you learn something. The saying, neurons that fire together, wire together, means that the more you use these roads, the stronger they become. There's an old proverb that applies to all this that I really like. Tell me and I'll forget, show me and I may remember, involve me and I'll understand. What this is saying is that the effort of being actively involved in something versus just being told or shown helps us get to the point where we understand something. And if we understand something, we're more likely to remember it. One easy way to follow the effort rule is to always carry a small notebook with you. Instead of using digital note-taking tools like Notion or Apple Notes, use the notebook and write down the information that you want to remember. Now, obviously, you're watching this video because you have some sort of interest in self-improvement or self-development, which means you probably watch other videos on the subject or listen to audiobooks or podcasts or you read books. But how much of the stuff we're watching or listening to do we actually remember? Instead of just watching, listening, or reading, if we make a habit to write things down that stand out to us, that tiny bit of effort can make a big difference in our lives. Now that we know how we can remember these things, let's dive into the second technique for learning, and that is called the Feynman Technique. The Feynman Technique comes from the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman, who's known for his work in quantum mechanics and particle physics, and just overall being really freaking smart. Despite all the things though, he truly believed that he was just some normal guy who studied hard. He believed that anyone was capable of learning with enough effort. He was quoted saying, "There's no miracle, people. It just happens that they got interested in this thing and they learned all this stuff. There's just people." He claimed that he wasn't super intelligent, he just had a way of learning things and trying to fully understand them. This is what we now call the Feynman Technique. Essentially, the Feynman Technique is a learning technique that you can use to understand almost anything in just 4 steps. One of the big benefits of the Feynman Technique is that it helps you gain a deeper understanding of a topic because it utilizes what's called the protege protege effect. And the protege effect is a psychological phenomenon that simulates teaching. The idea is that someone will put more effort into learning something when they know that they have to teach it to someone else as opposed to only learning it for themselves. So let's just get straight into the 4 steps of the Feynman technique. Step 1, choose a topic to learn. Choose a topic that you're interested in learning more about and write it down on the top of the page of your pocket notebook that we talked about earlier. Once you've done that, write down every single thing you know about the topic. As you continue to learn more, add that to your notes. Step number 2, teach it to a 5th grader. Once you have a decent idea about the topic, write it down as if you were trying to explain it to a 5th grader. The idea here is that if you can explain it in a simple way, you find out where you're struggling and what you need to learn, and you find out what you really understand. If you can't clearly and simply define the terms you're using, you don't fully understand what you're talking about. You want it to be as simple and clear as possible. Step number 3, organize and simplify your notes. Now that you have all these things written down as simply and clearly as possible, organize your notes into a narrative that you can tell from beginning to end. Once you do that, read it out loud. If any of it sounds off or confusing, go back to step number 2 and simplify it more and more. Keep going back and forth until you have a simple and clear narrative. Step number 4, review. To see how well you understand the topic, go genuinely teach it to someone else. See if they get confused or have any questions. If they do, go back to step number 2 and make it clearer and simpler. And there you have it. Those are a couple of tools that you can use to retain information better and learn more things. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and comment down below what things you do to help you learn. I'll see you guys in the next video.